right, welcome back to our study of the Patriarchs, rediscovering the faith of our fathers. Amen.
Amen.
You know, it's been a great journey so far, learning about our forefathers and the things that they taught us. You know, it's been pretty exciting. Well, today we're getting into a new book, and it's the book of Yahudah. It's the story of Yahudah. So we're gonna get into him, and you know, so today, I'm just forewarning you, we're gonna talk about one of the superheroes of the Bible. Hallelujah. And when we get into Yahudah and his writings, you're gonna see why, you know, I tagged him as one of the superheroes of the Bible. But, you know, awesome, you know, and as much as we can, we're going to align it with our canon, you know, that is the scriptures that we know and love, you know, that we've come to know affectionately as the Bible or our scriptures, amen. You know, so we're going to align it up with our measuring stick, because that's all a canon is. You know, so the canonized scriptures is nothing more than a measuring stick, amen. So we're going to try to make sure everything aligns with our canon. So, that said, let's jump into the book of Yahudah. You know, the first part is concerning fortitude, love, money, and fornication. So let me have my first reader read the two paragraphs of Yahudah. Yes, that is the person with the mic, please.
The happy words of Judah, which he spoke to his sons before he died. They gathered together around him, and he said, I was my father's fourth son. My mother named me Judah, saying, I give thanks to Adonai, because he had given me a fourth son to me. I was swift and active in my youth, and obedient to my father in everything. I honor my mother and my mother's sister. When I grew up, my father Yaakov prayed over me, saying, You will be a king and prosper in all things. The Adonai showed me favor in all my works, both in the field and at home. I raced with the hind, then I caught it, and prepared meat for my father. I seized upon the roes in the chase, and all that was in the plains I outran. A wild mare I outran, and I caught it and tamed it. I took a bear by its paw, and rode it over a cliff. If any beast turned upon me, I killed it like a dog. I encountered the wild boar, and overtaking it in the chase, I tore it. A leopard in Hebron leaped upon the dog, and I caught it by the tail and flung it from me, and it was dashed to pieces in the coast of Gaza. A wild ox feeding in the field I seized by the horns, and whirling it round and stunning it, I cast it from me and killed it.
Hallelujah. All right, so you probably see why I call Yahudah a superhero, right? You know, he was able to do some astounding feats, you know, of strength and cunning. You know, so yeah, so we continue on with the Canaanite wars. Let me have my next reader read concerning the Canaanite wars.
When the two kings of the Canaanites came in warlike array against our flocks, and many people with them, I by myself rushed upon King Sir and seized him, and I beat him upon the legs and dragged him down and killed him. The other king, Tapu, I killed as he sat upon his horse, and so I scattered all the people. King Achor, a man of giant stature, hurling darts before and behind as he sat on horseback, I killed. For I hurled a stone of 60 pounds and cast it upon his horse and killed him. I fought with Achor for 2 hours, and I killed him. I split his shield in two and chopped off his feet. As I stripped off his breastplate, behold, 8 of his companions began to fight with me. I used my garment as a sling and killed 4 of them. The rest fled.
Hallelujah. Okay, so yeah, brother Yahuda, yeah, he's a killer. Yeah, he was something. You know, continuing on, goes on to say, Yaakov, my father killed Belisa, king of all the kings, a giant in strength, 12 cubits high. So, you know, dad gets in on it like father, like son. You know, now we don't have anything in our canon to validate any of the stories of Yahuda. You know, it speaks about Yaakov killing Belisa. And at first I had to think like, does it even speak of Yaakov fighting anyone besides wrestling with the angel? And then I thought about Genesis 48:21 and 22. And it says, and Israel said unto Joseph, behold, I die, but Elohim shall be with you and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. So we see that Yaakov truly did, have some battles that we're not privy to. And so this battle against Belisa could be one of those battles. Now also it says in the book of Yahuda, it says, fear fell on them and they ceased from making war with us. Now, just to, so everything is clear, these Canaanite wars is what resulted out of Levi and Simeon killing everyone in Shechem, killing all the men of Shechem and taking the spoils. And remember, we talked about it, I believe it was Genesis 34, I believe, or 35, and it was saying that, and Yaakov was upset because he said, you made me stink among the people. Well, yeah, he stunk among the people, and they came up against him, well, at least in accordance with the story of Yahuda, with the book of Yahuda, that they went into some fierce battles because of this. And so these are the battles that's being spoken of. And so apparently after Yaakov had killed Belisa, the king of all the kings, a giant, that was 12 cubits high, after this, fear fell on them and they ceased from making war with us, the book of Yahuda says. Now this is congruent with our canon. Our canon says in Genesis 35:5, it says, and they journeyed, and the terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were round about them. And they did not pursue after the sons of Yaakov. Okay? So it does speak of terror of Elohim, which was being upon them. Now, the book of Yahuda picks up, or continues on rather, and it says, therefore my father had no care in the wars when I was among my brothers, for he saw a vision concerning me that an angel of might followed me everywhere I should not be overcome. Everywhere that I should not be overcome. And so when you think about it, this makes sense. Knowing that he's going to use the line of Yahuda to bring forth his anointed one, his Mashiach, of course he would, make sure that nothing happened to that line. Right, yeah. Amen. So that does make sense. So continuing on, they had war in Hebron. And it says, in the south, we faced a greater war than that in Shechem. So, again, so you see that did take place in Shechem. And he says, Yahuda says, I joined in the battle with my brothers and pursued 1,000 men. I killed 200 of them and 4 kings. I went up against them on the wall and killed 2 other kings. And so we freed Hebron and took all the captives of the kings. And I thought about this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he chased 1,000 men. And he killed 200 of them and 4 kings. And I thought about it, well, there's other mighty men in the scriptures as well, right? We have Samson in Judges 15 to 16, it says, and he found the new jawbone of a behind and put forth his hand and took it and slew 1,000 men therewith. You know, I said, okay, well, you know, Yahudah killed 200, Samson killed 1,000. Amen. You know, and it says in verse 16, and Samson said, with the jawbone of behind, heaps upon heaps, with the jaw of behind, have I slain 1,000 men. And then I thought about the mighty men of David, you know, of Yahudah. You know, 2 Samuel 23, 8 through 10, it says, these be the names of the mighty men whom David had. The Techmonite, that sat in the seat, chief among the captains. The same was Adino, the Eznite. He lifted up his spear against 800, whom he slew at one time. Yeah, he was another mighty man, was he not? Verse 9, and after him Eleazar, the son of Dodo, the Ahoite, one of the 3 mighty men with David, when they defied the Philistines that were there, gathered together to battle, and the men of Israel were gone away. He arose and smote the Philistines until his hand was weary, and his hand clave unto the sword. And Yahuwah wrought a great victory that day, and the people returned after him only to the spoil. So all of Israel ran from the host that they were about to do battle with, you know, but he stayed and fought him along, and Yah gave him the victory, you know. So, you know, when Yah is with you, who can be against you? Amen? All right. Let me have my next reader read, continue on with Yahudah concerning Arada, Tafu being destroyed, and Yobel and Makir being destroyed. These are cities.
On the next day, we departed to Arada, a strong, walled, and inaccessible city that threatened us with death. Therefore, Gad and I approached on the east side of the city, and Reuben and Levi on the west and south. Those who were upon the wall thought that we were alone, and charged down upon us. Our brothers secretly climbed up the wall on both sides by ladders, and entered into the city, while the men did not know it. We took it with the edge of the sword. We set fire to the tower, and took both it and those who had taken refuge there. As we were departing, the men of Tafu set upon our captives. We and our sons fought with them even to Tafu. We killed them and burnt their city, and spoiled all the things that were in it. When I was at the waters of Cheziba, the men of Jobel came to battle against us, and we fought with them. We killed their allies from Siloam, and we allowed them no means of escaping or of coming against us. The men of Makir came on the 5th day to carry away our captive. We attacked them and overcame them in fierce battle, for they were a mighty host in themselves. We killed them before they had gone up the side of the hill. When we came to their city, their women rolled stones on us from the brow of the hill on which the city stood. Simeon and I hid ourselves behind the town and seized the heights and utterly destroyed the whole city.
Hallelujah. You know, the sons of Yaakov was nothing to be played with, right? You know, these guys was kicking butt and taking names. They were not to be messed with. You know, so continues on with more Canaanite wars. My next reader, please.
The next day we were told that the cities of the 2 kings with a great host were coming against us. Therefore Dan and I feigned ourselves to be Amorites, and went as allies into their city. In the middle of the night our brothers came, and we opened the gate for them. We destroyed all the men and their substance, and we took for a spoil all that was theirs. We knocked down 3 of their walls. We drew near Fama, where all the hostile kings took refuge. Having been injured, I was angry, and chased them to the top of the hill. They shot stones and darts at me. If Dan, my brother, had not helped me, they would have been able to kill me. Therefore, we fiercely attacked them, and they all fled. Going around another way, they sought out my father, and he made peace with them. Therefore, we did them no harm, but made a truce with them, and restored to them all the captives. I built Thama, and my father built Rambah. I was 20 years old when this war happened, and the Canaanites feared me and my brothers.
Hallelujah, for good reason, right? You know, had good reason to fear them boys. You know, and yeah, you know, but we see he almost died here. You know, and you know, and that's, you know, that just goes to show you, you know, even God's grace upon you, you still can overstep your boundaries. Amen. You know, said if Dad, my brother, had not helped me, they would have been able to kill me. You know, now just usually, you know, somebody get, you know, Yahudah was a man's man. That's all I can say. You know, usually someone get wounded, they want to go somewhere and sit down. You know, it just made him angry. You know, he just got angry and chased him to the top of the hill. You know, yeah. You know, almost got himself killed, but, you know, yeah, I was looking out for him. Then his brother came to his aid. You know, so yeah, I'm pretty sure they did strike fear, you know, into people of the land. You know, Yah was truly with them. And now the story transitions into Yahudah's wife and children. It goes on to say, moreover, I had many cattle, and the chief of my herdsmen was Kira, the Adullamite. When I went to him, I saw Barsan, king of Adullam, who made us a feast. He entreated me and gave his daughter Bathshua for a wife. She bore me Onan, and Shelah. The Adonai struck two of them, and they died childless, but Shelah lived, and you are his children. Now, our canon does bear witness to this. You know, and so we see, it says in Genesis 38, 1 through 5, it says, and it came to pass at that time that Yahudah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adullamite, whose name was Kira. You know, so we learn here in the book of Yahudah that Kira was actually his chief herdsman. And it says that he turned into a certain Adullamite whose name was Kira in verse 2, and it says, and Yahudah saw that there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. You know, now we're told here in the book of Yahudah that her name was Bathshua. And we're told in Genesis 38 too that her name was Shua. You know, and I think that this was another name for Barsan, you know, the king of Adullam, because Bathshua simply means daughter of Shua. You know, so it says, and he took her and went in unto her, in verse 3, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Kezib when she bare him. So here it is, we see that it does align with our canon, you know, that he did marry someone, and they did, you know, bear him 3 children, and their names were Onan and Shelah. You know, then it goes on, speaking about, it gets into Esau being slain. It says, for 18 years after we came from Laban, or Laban, in Mesopotamia, we and our father lived in peace with his brother Esau and his sons. After this, in the 40th year of my life, Esau came against us with many strong people. He fell by the bow of Yaakov and was taken up dead in Mount Seir. As he went above Ramnah, he was slain. We pursued the sons of Esau. They had a city with walls of iron and gates of brass. We could not enter it. So we encamped around it and besieged them. When they did not open to us after 20 days, I set up a ladder in the sight of all. With my shield on my head, I climbed up a cell with stones of 3 talents weight. I climbed up and killed 4 mighty men. The next day, Reuben and Gad entered in and killed 60 others. Then they asked for terms of peace. Being aware of our father's purpose, we received them as tributaries. They gave us 200 cores of wheat, 500 baths of oil, and 1,500 measures of wine until we went down into Mitzrayim. That's interesting, right? All right, so the book of Yahudah continues on and begins to speak about Tamar. Let me have my next reader read a passage concerning Tamar.
After these things, my son took to wife Tamar from Mesopotamia, a daughter of Amram. And was wicked, and he doubted concerning Tamar, because she was not of the land of Canaan. On the third night, an angel of Adonai killed him, because he had not known her, according to the evil craftiness of his mother. And he did not wish to have children from her. In the days of the wedding feast, I exposed Onan to her, though he lived with her a year. When I threatened him, he lay with her, but he did the way his mother told him, and he also died in his wickedness.
Hallelujah. Now this is really enlightening right here, because, you know, this story was always strange to me when I read it in Genesis. You know, so this really fills in some of the gaps. So here we learn that, you know, yes, you know, truly did marry Tamar, but we learned that she was not of the land of Canaan. You know, and so seeing that they were in the land of Canaan and that he married a Canaanite, you know, I always presumed that she was a Canaanite. But she was not. You know, we learn here that he took her from Mesopotamia, a daughter of Amram, which was Abraham's brother. You know, so we see that, you know, he was following the you know, the law that had been set forth, you know, for their family. You know, so that's very enlightening in all actuality. You know, and so it helps to fill in some of these gaps. You know, like why wouldn't you know, not but his brother, why wouldn't he, Onan, you know, go into her? You know, and we know the story about how he spilled his seed on the ground, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it always, you know, caused me to wonder, like, okay, why didn't he want, you know, to raise up, you know, a seed to his brother? You know, maybe because he was next in line to get the inheritance, and, you know, he wanted a double portion. I don't, you know, so you just had to speculate. But now we see, you know, it says, because she was not of the land, you know, and it was according to the evil craftiness of his mother, you know, and so his mother told him to do that. And so, you know, it's not a far stretch, you know, that she also told to do the same thing, and that's why he died. You know, and so when Onan came behind him and did the same thing, he died as well. You know, so that's very, very enlightening. Genesis 38:6-10 says, and Yahudah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Yahudah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahudah, and Yahudah slew him. And Yahudah said unto Onan, go unto thy brother's wife and marry her and raise up seed to thy brother. Now, we learn here in the book of Yahudah that, you know, he was actually with her for a year before he actually went into her. In verse 9 says, Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. See, and that's where you get that idea from, you know, and the thing which he did displease Yahudah, wherefore he slew him also. But we learn here that it was due to the craftiness of his mother and what she told him. And when you start thinking about this, it makes perfect sense. See, because you have to keep in mind that Bathsheba was royalty. That she was the daughter of a king, so her sons were heirs to the throne of her father. You know, and so I can see the complication if they married someone who was not from the land. You know, and now, you know, making them heirs to the throne of her father, you know, who weren't from the land. I can totally see the contention. You know, if you think about it, you can see it. You know, And so it helps it make a bit more sense. You know, now you can see why mom was so adamant about, you know, no, she wanted her sons to marry one of her people, you know, because she know that they will be heirs to the throne. Makes sense. You know, so continuing on with the story of Tamar, he says, I wanted to give Shelah to her also, but my wife Bathsheba would not allow it. For she hated Tamar because she was not of the daughters of Canaan as herself was. Okay? Now concerning Shelah, he says, I knew that the race of Canaan was wicked, but the thoughts of youth blinded my heart when I saw Bathsheba pouring out wine. In the drunkenness of wine, I was deceived. Is he blaming it on the alcohol? It sure sounds like that, right? You know, said, and I fell in love with her while I was away. She went and took for Shelah a wife from the land of Canaan. So she made sure that her son got a wife from the land of Canaan, the last one. You know, now he continues on. He says, when I realized what she had done, I cursed her in the anguish of my soul, and she also died in the wickedness of her sons. You know, so there's a big lesson to be learned here. You know, because Yahudah was, you know, one of Yah's. He was one of his men. Amen. And he was chosen, you know, that his seed would bring forth the Mashiach. And he cursed her in the anguish of his soul, and she died. You know, and this should make you think of Proverbs 18, 20, and 21. It says, a man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. You have to watch what comes out of your mouth. Proverbs 18, 21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. You know, now, this is a lot, you know, like Proverbs 18:20 is a lot like this false doctrine going around called the law of attraction. You know, a man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips, you know, shall he be satisfied. You know, now this is true when it's in alignment with Yah's word. It's true when it's in alignment with Yah's will. It's true when it's in alignment with Yah's purpose. But if it's outside of that alignment of Yah's will, ways, or purpose, then it's not going to come to pass. You can meditate and think about and reaffirm and say for days on end that I'm going to rob a bank, get rich, and live happily ever after. You know, but that is not going to happen. I implore you, do not fall into that type of philosophy. Do not adhere to that type of philosophy. You know, if you want to be blessed, follow the way of Elohim.
Yes.
For he says, if you keep his way, then you'll be blessed. He says, if you go against his way, you'll be cursed.
Yeah.
So it's not about the law of attraction. It's not about just going about saying, you know, what you want and thinking what you want, and you somehow magically going to obtain it. It's going to draw it into your life. No, it's not the law of attraction. You know, but when you do that with the will, way, and purpose of Elohim, then it draws it into your life. When you adhere to his word, walk in his way, and do things in accordance to his purpose, you know, then he brings the blessings. No, any other way is witchcraft. All right, enough of that. All right, continue on, you know, with the story of Yahudah and Tamar now. Let me have my next reader read the next paragraph of Yahudah concerning Tamar.
After these things, while Tamar was a widow, she heard after 2 years that I was going up to shear my sheep. Then she decked herself in bridal array, and sat by the gate of the city. For it is a law of the Amorites that she who is about to marry sit in fornication 7 days by the gate. I therefore, being drunk at the waters of Chozeb, recognized her not by reason of wine, and her beauty deceived me through the fashion of adorning. I turned aside to her and said, I would enter into you.
All right, so when we hold this up to our canon, our canonized scripture, our measuring stick, Genesis 38:13 through 16, it says, and it was told Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnah to shear the sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. When Yahudah saw her, he thought her to be an harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, what wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? You know, now, this needs a little elucidation, if you would. It needs a little, it needs to be explained a little bit, a little expounding. You know, first of all, we see that in Genesis it calls her to be a harlot. It calls her a harlot. You know, and the book of Yahudah, it tells you that she decked herself in bridal array. You know, and so we see the veil. And we know brides still wear veils now today, amen? You know, now, he tells us something, you know, very important, in key to understanding the story. He says, for it is a law of the Amorites that she who is about to marry sit in fornication 7 days by the gate. Now, for those of you all who been adhering to my teaching for a while, you may recall me teaching on Ishtar and how she was worshipped, you know, in some cases, you know, and, you know, in the hills and high places, you know, Ishtar, or the groves, as they called it, you know, they would worship Ishtar. And so when a woman got married, you know, she would go up there and she would have to, you know, basically prostitute herself, you know, before her husband was allowed to go into her. You know, kind of like backwards of what Yas taught, right? You know. So we see here evidence of that. It says it's a law of the Amorites that she who was about to marry sit in fornication 7 days by the gate. You know, now from the research I did, you know, she could not go leave down from there until she actually entered into, you know, some relation with someone, you know, and so they would have to come and make a purchase, so to speak. Okay. And so we see evidence of that, you know, here in the book of Yahudah. And so I don't want you to think that, you know, kind of like, you know, what Genesis kind of put you in the mind of, that, you know, it was just like, you know, they was on the Las Vegas Strip or something, and he was walking by and there she was, you know. Yeah, so, you know, it was a part of their law. And so he thought that, you know, hey, you know, she was trying to get married, you know, it's a win-win. I help her out, and, you know, she helped me out, and everything would be good, you know. Well, it didn't quite go that way. You know, so, did I read 16?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep it moving there. You know, so Judah sleeps with Tamar. He says, I gave her my staff and my girdle and my royal crown, and lay with her, and she conceived. And I then not knowing what she had done, wished to slay her, but she secretly sent my pledges and put me to shame. Now that's the book of Yahudah. Now we're going to hold it up to our canon, our measuring stick. In Genesis 18, 17, and 18, it says, and he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? And he said, what pledge shall I give thee? And she said, thy signet and thy bracelets and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it her and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. So we see that there's a discrepancy here. You know, they don't align perfectly. Now they both acknowledge that the staff was one of the things that was given. You know, but he says Yahudah said he also gave his girdle and his royal crown. And the account in Genesis says that it was the staff, the signet, and the bracelets. You know, but they both accounts agree on the staff at least. Now Genesis 38:24-26 continues on. It says, and it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Yahudah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath plagued the harlot, and also behold, she is with child by whoredom. And this is what's being alluded to when it says, I then, not knowing what she had done, wished to slay her. You know, and so when he heard about she was with child by whoredom, he said, and Yahudah said, bring her forth and let her be burned. You know, so he was seeking to slay her. Amen. You know, verse 25. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? The signet, the bracelet, and the staff. And this is what Yahudah was saying, but she secretly sent my pledges and put me to shame. You know, and verse 26, and Yahudah acknowledged them and said, she have been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son, and he knew her again no more. Okay, you know, it continues on. It says, when I called her, I heard also the secret words which I spoke when lying with her in my drunkenness, and I could not slay her because it was from the Adonai. You know, so not only that, when she came to him, she told him some of the things some of the pillow talk that he was doing, you know, that night. And says, for I said, in case by accident she did it in subtlety and received a pledge from another woman. But I came near her no more till my death, because I had done this abomination in all Israel. So he still didn't believe it, you know, until she told him some of the stuff that he said. Then he knew, okay, yeah, it was her. Continues, says, moreover, they who were in the city said that there was no bride in the city, because she came from another place. You know, so they wouldn't have known about it. And sat in the, for a while in the gate, and she thought that no one knew that I had gone into her. And so that's why, you know, she did all that. Genesis 38:20-22 kind of aligns with that. It says, and Yahudah sent the kid by the hand of his friend, the Adullamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, where's the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. And he returned to Yahudah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said there was no harlot in this place. You know, and so now we know why that was. And that was even because she was not from there. You know, she just came there for that purpose, and then she skedaddled back home. So, continuing on, the book of Yahudah says, after this we came into Mitzrayim to Joseph because of the famine. I was 46 years old. I lived there 73 years. All right, so then now he begins to talk about his greed, pride, and fornication. Let me have my next reader read the next few paragraphs.
Now, my children, in whatever things I command you, listen to your father, and keep all my sayings to perform the ordinance of the Adonai, and to obey the command of the Adonai Elohim. Do not walk after your lust, nor in the thoughts of your imaginations, in the haughtiness of your heart. Do not glory in the works of the strength of youth, for this also is evil in the eyes of the Adonai. For since I also gloried that in wars the face of no beautiful woman ever deceived me, and upbraided Reuben, my brother, concerning Belha, the wife of my father. The spirits of jealousy and fornication arrayed themselves within me, until I sinned with Bathsheba the Canaanite and Tamar, who was espoused to my sons. I said to my father-in-law, I will counsel with my father, and so will I take your daughter. He showed me a boundless store of gold in his daughter's behalf, for he was a king. He decked her with gold and pearls, and caused her to pour out wine for us at the feast in woman's beauty. The wine led my eyes astray, and pleasure blinded my heart, and I loved her, and I fell, and transgressed the commandment of the Adonai and the commandment of my fathers, and I married her. The Adonai rewarded me according to the thought of my heart, insomuch that I had no joy in her children.
Hallelujah. Okay, so we see here that, the king, kind of seduced him with his daughter and with his wealth and with the alcohol, and so he fell victim, and he took Bathsheba to wife even when he shouldn't have. He continues on, he says, my children, do not be drunk with wine, for wine turns the mind away from the truth. Those sound like some wise words. It kindles the passion of lust and leads the eyes into error. Fornication uses wine to create fantasies for the mind. These two take away man's power of self-control. If a man drinks to a state of drunkenness, his mind becomes filled with filthy thoughts of fornication. And if the woman is present, he sins without a second thought. Such is wine, my children. A drunkard respects no one. Now those are some pretty wise words right there. That's some real deal Holyfield stuff right there. Yeah, you can learn something from that. Revelation 18:2-3 is what it reminds me of. It says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen and become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine and of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And so we see here wine and fornication goes hand in hand, even as Yahudah is saying. He continues on, he says, it also made me err, so that I was not ashamed of the multitude in the city. I turned aside into Tamar in front of them all. And I sinned, and I uncovered the covering of the shame of my sons. After I was drunk with wine, I disobeyed Elohim's commandment, and I took a Canaanite wife. Therefore, my children, whosoever drinks wine lacks discretion. Here is discretion. Drink only as long as you can be decent. If you go beyond this point, the wine deceives your mind and works evil. It makes the drunkard talk filthily, transgress, and not be ashamed. It even causes him to glory in his dishonor, believing he has done well. Boy, that's some wisdom right there. That is some wisdom right there. He continues on. He says, he who fornicates and uncovers his nakedness has become the servant of fornication and cannot escape its power, as I also was uncovered, for I gave my staff, the symbol of my tribe, my girdle, the symbol of my power, and my crown, which is the glory of my kingdom. Now here it is, you get drunk, you give all that away. In exchange, and when you really all she wanted was a goat. And you wonder why when your man came with the goat, she was gone. Yeah. She got the symbol of your tribe, your power, and your glory. That's why. Heck with the goat. Psalms 105, it says that he gave his staff, the symbol of his tribe. And what I want you to understand and know and understand is that the staff, it was a symbol of the tribe, but it was also referred to as the staff of bread. And it was a symbol of nourishment, like nourishment for the family. And so we see here in Psalms 105:16, it says, moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread. We have a second witness in Leviticus 26:26. It says, and when I have broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver you your bread again by weight, and ye shall eat and not be satisfied. Let every matter be established by 2 to 3 witnesses. So we got a third witness. It says, moreover, he said unto me, son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment. Now this is literally the fulfillment of Leviticus 26:26, or second witness to Leviticus 26:26. And Yahshua was the fulfillment of that, because Yahshua was truly that staff. He was the staff, he was the symbol of his tribe, and he was that bread. Number 17:8, it said, and it came to pass that on the morrow Moshe went into the tabernacle of witness. And behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded, and brought forth buds, and bloomed blossoms, and yielded almonds. And of course, this typified Yahshua as well. Yahshua was that staff, that symbol of the tribe. What tribe? The true Levites. What does Levi mean? Levi means joined to. And Yahshua was truly the one that was joined to the Most High El. He was joined to his Father, and he was joined to man. He was that liaison that every Levi was supposed to be. See, but now, first the natural, then the spiritual. He was that spiritual Levite. He was that spiritual man that was attached to Yah and to humanity. And this is why those of us who walk in his ways, we have to be fathered from above. We have to become spiritual beings ourselves. And we have to, too, likewise, be attached to the Father and to humanity. Yes. Amen. We, too, have to become those liaisons. We know that it was our Messiah, Yahshua, that even as the rod of Aaron budded, so did our Messiah budded. When they put him in the grave, 3 days later, he came back out, and he was budded. Hence, we call him the first fruits. See, it says that the rod budded with almonds. Almonds was the first thing to ripen in the land. So they're a symbol of first fruits. And so what I want you to see is that this is truly speaking of Yahshua. And even when he gave his staff, he gave that staff of bread, even that bread of life. And he gave that girdle, he gave that power. And he gave that crown, he gave that glory of his kingdom. And who did he give it to? Tamar. And spiritually speaking, Tamar is the equivalent of Yahushua's ecclesia. Tamar name means palm tree. And it's the ones who are upright that Yahudah, that the Mashiach of Yahudah gave the bread of life. It's those who are upright that he gave his power. It is those who are upright that he gave his glory. And so I want you to be able to see the spiritual picture behind this, because this is truly speaking to our Mashiach, our El, our King. Amen. He continues on. He says, therefore, my children, observe moderation in wine, for it brings out 4 evils: lust, wrath, rioting, and greed. If you drink wine in gladness, with humility, and with the fear of Elohim, you will live. If you do not drink with humility, and the fear of Elohim leaves you, then comes drunkenness, and pride sets in. Even if you never drink, guard yourselves lest you sin in words of outrage, fighting, or slander, transgressing the commandments of Elohim, or you will perish before your time. Moreover, drunkenness causes you to divulge the mysteries of Elohim and men to unbelievers, just as I revealed the commandments of Elohim and the mysteries of Yaakov, my father, to the Canaanite Bathsheba, to whom Elohim forbade to declare them. Wine is also a cause of war and confusion. Yeah, we know it caused a lot of that. He continues on concerning Judah's charge and the books of Enoch. My next reader, please.
Judah's charge. I charge you therefore, my children, not to love money, nor to gaze upon the beauty of women, because for the sake of money and beauty I was led astray to Bathsheba the Canaanite. I know that because of these two things my descendants will fall into wickedness. Even wise men among my sins they will mar, and will cause the kingdom of Judah to be diminished, which the Adonai gave me because of my obedience to my father. For I never disobeyed a word of Jacob my father. I did everything he commanded. Abraham, my great-grandfather, blessed me that I should be king in Israel, and Isaac further blessed me in like manner. I know that from me will the kingdom be established. The books of Enoch. I have also read the books of Enoch the righteous, the books of Enoch and his fathers. What evils you will do in the last days. Guard against fornication and the love of money. Listen to your father, for these things separate you from the law of Elohim. Blind to the understanding of the soul, teach arrogance, and take away your compassion. They rob your soul of all goodness, bind you in troubles, take away your sleep, devour your flesh, and hinder the sacrifices of Elohim. They cause you to forget the blessing, ignore the prophets, and trouble you with ungodliness. You cannot serve these two passions and obey the commandments of Elohim, because they blind your soul and make those who walk in the daytime like they were walking in the night.
Hallelujah. Okay, couple things I want to point out. First of all, in Yahuda's charge, he says, I was led astray to Bathsheba the Canaanite. I know that because of these two things, my descendants will fall into wickedness. And how did he know that, though? See, and what I want to propose to you today is that he knew that because he understood something spiritually that we don't seem to understand today. And that is what's called familiar spirits. Spirits that go down through the family line. You know, and when you read through scripture, you'll find that these things really, they followed his line. We see them in David.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so we see they truly do follow through his line, and that's because these become familiar spirits. You know, they know where that family line is weak at, and so this is where the enemy attacks, and this is why he says, "I know that because of these two things, my descendants will fall into wickedness." You know, and so he tells them, guard against fornication and the love of money, because that's what led him astray. You know, he married the daughter of a king. He showed him a bunch of money, decked his daughter with a bunch of gold and silver. And all this can be yours. Then gave him some wine and got him all sauced up. And next thing you know, he was on the hook. You know, and so he says you cannot serve these two passions and obey the commandments of Elohim, because they will blind your soul. Truly, the love of money and fornication will blind your soul. Them are two things undoubtedly that will blind your soul. You know, so much so that Yahshua would say that the love of money is the root of all evil. And we know from the very beginning, you know, well, we're not going to go there. But anyway, continues on and says, guard against your weaknesses. He's letting his children know where their weaknesses lie. See, and so you fathers, when you're speaking to your sons and daughters, let them know where their weaknesses lie, so that they won't be so vulnerable. You know, so you know where you were weak at, they're going to be weak at. The spirits that came up against you are going to come up against them. You know, so you know when you speak to your offspring, You warn them of these things. This is what Yahudah is doing. This is what all the sons of Yaakov are doing. This is what we should be doing. Amen? He says, my children, the love of money leads to idolatry. Because when money leads men astray, they talk about false gods. And it causes them to fall into madness for the sake of money. I lost my children, and only through repentance, humbling my soul in the prayers of Yaakov, my father, I found forgiveness. The Elohim of my fathers, who is pitiful and merciful, pardoned me because I did it in ignorance. The prince of deceit blinded me, and I was ignorant in my humanity, being corrupted in sins. I learned of my own weakness while thinking myself unconquerable. You know, yeah, don't get so puffed up in the pride and thinking that you can't be brought low. You know, he continues on. Concerning truth or error, he says, learn therefore, my children, that two spirits wait upon man. The Ruach of truth, hey, where we hear about him before? And the spirit of error. Among them stands the understanding of the mind. Truth and error are written on the hearts of men, and the Adonai knows each one. There is no time that the works of men can be hidden from him. Each man must decide deep within his own heart whether to be true or not. The Ruach of truth testifies all things and accuses all. He who sins is destroyed by his own heart and cannot raise his face unto the judge. Now this makes me think of 1 Yochanan 3:20 and 21. It says, for if our heart condemn us, Elohim is greater than our heart and knoweth all things. Beloved, if our heart condemn us not, we have confidence toward Elohim. Say it loud. He continues on. He says, obey Levi. He says, my children, love Levi, that you may live. Do not rebel against him, or you will be utterly destroyed. The Adonai gave me the kingdom, and him the priesthood, and he set the kingdom beneath the priesthood. He gave me the things upon the earth, but him the heavenly things. As the heaven is higher than the earth, so is the priesthood of Elohim higher than the kingdom upon the earth. The Adonai chose him above you, to draw near to him, to eat of his table and first fruits, even the choice things of the sons of Israel, and you will be to them as a sea. For as the sea, just and unjust, are tossed about, some are taken into captivity while others are enriched, so also will every type of man be in you. Some are in jeopardy and taken captive, others will grow rich by means of plunder. Those who rule will be great sea monsters, swallowing up men like fishes. Somebody else wanted some fishes. Say it loud. They will enslave free sons and daughters. They will plunder houses, lands, flocks, and money. With the flesh of many, they will wrongfully feed the ravens and the cranes. They will go further in evil, advancing in greed. They will be false prophets like tempests. They will persecute all righteous men. That don't sound too cool, does it? Yahudah seed is king forever. The Adonai will bring divisions on them, one against another, and there will be continual wars in Israel among men of another race. Will my kingdom be brought to an end until the salvation of Israel will come, until the appearing of the Elohim of righteousness, that Yaakov and all the Gentiles may rest in peace. So he says until the salvation of Israel will come, until the appearing of the Elohim of righteousness, that Yaakov and all the Gentiles may rest in peace. This sounds very similar to Yeshayahu 56, verses 1 through 3. It says, thus saith Yahuwah, keep ye judgment and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. It goes on to say, blessed is the man that doeth this, and the son of man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil, neither let the son of the stranger that have joined himself to Yahuwah speak, saying, Yahuwah utterly separated me from his people, neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. So you see, it was not just to Yaakov, but it was to the Gentiles as well. You know, and it was just in a wait for salvation, or Yahshua to come, and for his righteousness to be revealed, the righteousness of Elohim to be revealed. And that's something that so few people, seem to gather, that, Yahshua did come to bring the righteousness of Elohim. Yahudah continues, he says, he will guard the might of my kingdom forever, for the Adonai swore to me with an oath that the kingdom should never fail from me and from my seed for all days, even forever. You know, and this is in alignment with Psalms 132, 11 and 12. It says, Yahuwah have sworn in truth unto David, he will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. If thy children will keep my covenant and my testimony that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon thy throne. For how long? Forevermore. All right. Sins of his children. He continues on. He says, I am much grieved, my children, because you will sin against the kingdom of lewdness, witchcraft, idolatry, by seeking those who have familiar spirits. You will make your daughters singing girls and harlots for divinations and demons of error, and you will be mingled in Gentile pollution. For these things Adonai will bring on you: famine, pestilence, death by the sword, avenging siege, dogs for rending enemies to pieces, revilings of friends, destruction, blindness, children slaughtered, wives carried off, and possessions plundered. The temple of Elohim will be in flames, and your land desolated. You will be enslaved among the Gentiles, and they will make some of you eunuchs for their wives. Whenever you return to the Adonai with humility of heart, repenting and walking in all the commandments of Elohim, then will the Adonai visit you in mercy and love, bringing you out of the bondage of your enemies. This sounds very familiar. Very similar to 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sin and will heal their land. This is all we have to do, folks. And if we would do this, we can turn everything around. All the wickedness in this world, we can turn it right around. Then he begins to talk about the Mashiach. He says, after these things will a star arise to you from Jacob in peace, and a man will rise from my seed like the son of righteousness, walking with the sons of men in meekness and righteousness, and no sin will be found in him. You know, this is in alignment with Malachi 4:2. He says, but unto you that fear my name shall the son of righteousness arise with healing in his wings. And he shall go forth and grow up as calves of the star. Yahudah continues, he said, the heavens will be opened above him to shed forth the blessing of the Ruach from the Holy Father. He will shed forth a Ruach of grace on you. You will be to him sons of truth, and you will walk in his commandments, the first and the last. You know, you will walk in his commandments. See, our Messiah was always meant to bring the commandments of Elohim. You know, you have to be able to see that, because he was the prophet like unto Moshe, and like unto Moshe, he brought the commandments of Elohim. And he is the first and the last, the Aleph and the Tav. Amen. He continues, he says, this is the branch of Elohim most high, and this is the wellspring unto life for all flesh. Then the scepter of my kingdom will shine forth, and from our root stem, a stem will arise. In it will arise a rod of righteousness to the Gentiles, to judge and to save all that call on the Adonai. And Yeshayahu 11:1 bears witness to this. It says, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And you're not going to have it on the screen, but Jeremiah 23:5-6 is a second witness. It says, behold, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Yahudah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. This is the name whereby he shall be called, Yahuwah our righteousness. Amen. All right. Then he speaks about the resurrection. Yes, the resurrection. It says, after these things will Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob arise unto life. I and my brothers will be chiefs, even your scepter in Israel. Levi first, I the second, Joseph third, Benjamin fourth, Simeon fifth, Issachar sixth, and so all in order. The Adonai blessed Levi with the angel of the presence, me with the power of glory, Simeon with the heaven, Reuben with the earth, Issachar with the sea, Zebulun with the mountains, Joseph with the tabernacle, Benjamin with the lights of heaven, Dan with the fatness of the earth, Naphtali with the sun, Gad with the olive, Asher, and it cuts off. Sorry. Then it picks back up. There will be one people of the Adonai and one tongue. There will no more be a spirit of deceit of Belial, for he will be cast into fire forever. Those who have died in grief will rise in joy. Those who have lived in poverty for the Adonai's sake will be made rich. And those who have been in want will be filled. Those who have been weak will be made strong. Those who have been put to death for the Adonai's sake will awaken life. The hearts of Yaakov will run in joyfulness, and the eagles of Israel will fly in gladness. But the ungodly will lament, and sinners all weep, and all the people will glorify the Adonai forever. So he says, my children, observe the whole law of the Adonai, for there is hope for all those who follow his way correctly. Today I die 119 years old. Let no one bury me in costly apparel, nor tear open my bowels, for this is what kings do. Carry me up to Hebron with you. Yahudah, when he had said these things, fell asleep, and his sons did according to all that he had commanded them, and buried him in Hebron with his fathers. You know, so I told you that today we was going to talk about one of the superheroes of the Bible. Now you can see why I refer to Yahudah as a superhero of the Bible. Amen. You know, and because from him will come one of the greatest superheroes that ever was created, even Superman. You know, now what I want you to understand is that the creators of Superman were Yahudah. They were actually Yahudah. And Superman is actually based off of Scripture. You know, Superman, when you think about it, where did he come from? He came from the heavens. Amen? And his father's name was Jor-El or Yor-El. You know, because now the closest name in Scripture to Yor-El is Yoel, which means Yahuwah is El. You know, or if you just want to transliterate it, it's Yor-El. You know, and we know who our El is, right?
Yeah.
Now, well, I hope you know who your El is. You know, and Superman, his name was I believe it's Kyle or something like that, right? Yeah, Kyle. And I forgot what his name means. Son of El. Son of El. So, we have your El and we have the son of El. So that's pretty that's pretty congruent, right? You know, like I said, Yahudah made it. You know, and the true Superman was the Messiah. You know, and the S on his chest is for Savior. You know. Now, the only thing that can harm Superman, there's only one thing in the universe, and that is kryptonite. You know, and this is kryptonite, and you see he's losing his strength. That's the only thing that can cause him to lose his strength. You know, and so, you know, I want you to learn what kryptonite really is. Crypto, you know, comes from the root. The root meaning of crypto actually means hidden. And it's the hidden things that will cause Superman to get weak. You know, when we look at Ezekiel 8:12, it says, then said he unto me, Son of man, thou hast seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark. Every man in the chambers of his imagery. For they said, Yahuwah seeth us not, Yahuwah hath forsaken us. Remember when Yah walked the earth, he said, he told the people, you know, that he quoted one of the Psalms, and he said, did not the Psalm say that ye are as gods, but you will die as men? See, what I want you to know and understand, that Yah had, just like we read about Yahudah and his brothers, Yah had made a race of supermen. he made a race of Superman. You know, and they still super today as soon as they realize, you know, what their kryptonite is. And they get rid of their kryptonite, you know, they'll be super again. Amen. So I'm going to try to point out the kryptonite. Crypto means hidden. You know, and so we see here in Ezekiel 8:12, it speaks of the ancients and what they did in the dark. What they did in the dark, every man in the chambers of his imagery, for they say, Yahuwah seeth us not, Yahuwah hath forsaken the earth. Yahuwah still sees all. See, and it's those things that you do in the dark that are like kryptonite to you. You know, you'll be a superhero, you'll be a Superman if you just got rid of the kryptonite, the things that was hidden. Yeshayahu 29:15 says, woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahuwah, and their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? Yahuwah does. 2 Kings 17:9, and the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahuwah their Elohim. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchmen to the fenced cities. This is the kryptonite. This is what makes Yah's Superman weak. Ephesians 5:11-14, it says, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. When Yahshua came, he said he was the light. We're supposed to be children of light. We're supposed to reprove darkness. It says, for it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doeth make manifest is light. Wherefore he saith, awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall give thee light. You know, and that's all we have to do. We have to wake up. We have to arise from our deadened state. Receive the Messiah, and he will give us light, and we will all be Supermen. You know, and we all can be Supermen. With Yahshua and his light, we can all be Supermen and women. And today I'm gonna show you how to tap into your superpowers. Amen?
Amen.
Well, Superman, before he becomes Superman, who is he?
Clark Kent.
Absolutely. He's Clark Kent. Now, Clark comes from the ancient word clerk, which used to be actually pronounced Clark. You know, and from clerk we get clergy. And clergy speaks to the priest. From Kent we get staff. Remember that staff?
Yeah.
From Kent means staff or pole. And so when we start talking about Clark Kent, we're talking about the priestly staff. Remember the staff of Levi that budded? Remember how we talked about Yahshua being that staff of bread? Well, when we're that priestly staff, when we begin to feed Yah's people with that bread of life,
Ooh, hallelujah.
we become Supermen. Now, that doesn't mean that that the world all of a sudden doesn't have problems. But it means that we have superpowers on the inside. It means that we can transform if we need to. Now, where did Superman go when he needed to transform from Clark Kent to Superman? What'd you say, Mac? A phone booth. Clark Kent enters the phone booth, but it's Superman who comes out. See, and this is all you have to know and understand. When you're Clark Kent, you have to go into the phone booth when there's trouble. What's in the phone booth? A phone. You pick up the phone and you call on Yah. See, this is the place where you go. This is your prayer closet. That's all that phone booth is. It's just representation of your prayer closet. You go in there and you call on the Most High El. You call on the one who puts the super in Superman. And when you may go in as Clark Kent, but you'll come out as Superman. You know, so this is what I encourage you to do. When you go in as Clark Kent, you come out with Superman, and when you come out as Superman, you have special superpowers. such as speaking in tongues and interpretation of tongues and prophecy and wisdom and knowledge and faith and healings and doing of miracles and discerning of spirits, you truly become a Superman. So next time you find yourself in trouble, I encourage you to find your phone booth. Go in as Clark Kent, but come out as Superman. That's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing.